Good morning, everyone, and a warm welcome for today's public lecture. This is our first public lecture of this month, that's July. So, previously in the last month, we conducted four public lectures, and most of the participants are continuing our public lecture. I'm very much thankful for that you guys are joining us for every webinar. Today's webinar is again a very interesting as it talks about the origin of life, and today's speaker is Dr. Majumdar. He started his journey in geology from Presidency College, University of Calcutta. He did a bachelor's over there, and then he moved to IIT Bombay for doing his master's in applied geology. Later, he moved to.
Okay, good morning, everybody, and thanks for joining me in this webinar. So today's talk, as Professor Sahu said, it's on serpentinite story on the origin of life. So it's more of a storytelling than a proper, I would say, I will not give you the much of data research, all these topics. It's a hypothesis kind of thing. So just for you, because most of the audience is, I think, from UG and PG, so it will be a nice story for them to understand from a geological point of view. So if we start our Earth's journey in the early Hadean Earth, maybe around 4.6 to 4 billion years ago, Earth looks like this. So it was full of volcanoes, and the moon was closer to the Earth, and there was no sign of water or life at that stage. Then we came at around Archean era from 4 to 2.5 billion years. Then the Earth changed into this shape, that water emerged into this Earth. The moon actually was far away from the sun, from our Earth, and there are few volcanoes. Now at this stage, the current research says that at this stage we get the sign of life. So it was around 3.7 billion years ago that we get the first sign of life in the form of microbial structures. It was found in Greenland. From then, the life has emerged, as you all know, through the geological history. But when we study this record of life over this geological past, the two most important questions that comes into our mind, first one is how life began in early Earth, and second one is how it has evolved since then. Now, thanks to our previous scientists, we now more or less have a hypothesis or theory for how it has evolved since then, and this is because of our Charles Darwin and his famous book, The Origin of Species, which actually tells that all the animal being in this planet Earth has evolved from a common ancestors. So we have a common ancestors from which we all originated. But till today, we don't have any specific answer on how life began in this early Earth. And that is one of the cutting edge research in present geological, geophysical, chemical, and biological community. Now, if we try to understand that what is the origin of life in this planet Earth, we have to first understand that what are the prerequisites for the origin of life or for the origin of an organic form. The four main prerequisites are: first is the energy, second is the carbon, third is the concentration. Concentration means the concentration of the building elements. And fourth is the catalyst. That means from the inorganic world to organic world, when we change, what catalytic reaction actually hasten this process. And it was in almost for 50 years ago, things were so difficult to understand that one of the famous molecular biologists, Professor Francis Crick, he actually got the Nobel Prize in physiology in 1962. he actually gave this hypothesis that life seems almost a miracle, because he worked on DNA and he found that almost 10 million DNA, because for life origination, DNA replication must happen. And he found that it is, to get a DNA replicate, it is a chance in 1 by 10 million. So he said that it is, life seems almost a miracle. And based on that, actually the first theory, so far there are many theories. There are some theories has scientific basis, some has our beliefs. But based on scientific basis, there are two theories that mostly pertains till date. First theory is called the theory of panspermia. Now this theory tells, and it started from Greek philosopher Anaxagoras until Swedish chemist Arrhenius. This theory tells that there was the building block of life that came in this planet Earth from some extraterrestrial body. And from that, the whole animal planet originated in this Earth. And based on this, you find today there are many research going on. This is one of the fundamental research topic for extraterrestrial exploration. So now it is going on Mars exploration. So this ALH 84001, this is a Martian meteorite, and in which we get the evidence of cyanobacteria. You find in the right corner, this is the ACM image of the cyanobacteria that is found in this meteorite. So people are actually trying to understand, if life is coming from other planet, then what can be the sources? And so far, one of the most potential sources, Martian planet. Now, even if this theory was very popular, there are some contemporary theory also going on, and it started almost 100 years ago. And today I will talk on this theory only mainly. So the first theory, and this the other contemporary theory on the origin of life, that builds on many small theories. And the first theory, maybe you have read this in your +2 level, is called Oparin-Haldane theory. It came in 1924, and please mark the years, because to understand science, we have to understand how the science has evolved through time. So the Oparin-Haldane theory, for the first time, it tells that there is no difference between living organism and lifeless matter. That means it tells that the organic world and the inorganic world is just the same and at two endpoints of the same surface. And the second, this theory secondly tells that the life on Earth has developed through a gradual evolution of a carbon-based molecule, which is called primordial soup. I think many of you have heard of this word, primordial soup. And this theory, Oparin and Haldane, these two scientists, they gave the composition of this primordial soup was present in the early ocean. That means in Archean ocean. And it was mainly composed of H2, H2O, ammonia, and methane, and carbon dioxide. But the most important thing is there is no free oxygen. As you may remember, that great oxidation event happened in around 2.7 billion years. So before that, there was no free oxygen. The Earth was mostly anoxic. Now, after this theory in 1924, in the very next year, one remarkable experiment, two chemists, which is Fischer and Tropsch, these two German chemists, they did this experiment. And you don't have to go to this long cycle. You see at the top, there is carbon monoxide gas and hydrogen gas. And at the end, in the bottom, you see there is some organic molecules. So by this experiment, they first time showed the world that from inorganic compound like hydrogen and carbon monoxide, we can get organic molecules. That means, and from inorganic world to the inorganic world to the organic world, this transformation is possible. And this came in the very next year. Now, based on these two theories, in 1952, this is one of the famous experiments. This is called Miller-Urey experiment. So the Professor Harold Urey was the professor and Stanley Miller was his PhD student. So they did one experiment. So in a chamber, what they did, that they put all the gases that was earlier hypothesized for primordial soup. So they put methane, they put ammonia, they put hydrogen, they put water. And you, instead of sunlight here as a source of energy, they gave some electric sparks. And they did these experiments through time for 15 days, 1 month. And at the end of the experiment, there is this small cap at the bottom, you can see. They collected the reaction products of this experiment. And surprisingly, they found there is the presence of ammonia, there will be amino acid molecules. So this is the first time they found that amino acid molecules, these molecules can be produced by simple these compounds. So this is one of the major step in understanding this origin of life. And so they found that abiogenic synthesis of amino acid is possible. Again, corroborating the fact from inorganic world to organic world transformation is possible. And then through time, we made to great discovery, and here comes the role of the geologist. First time that in 1977, I think, yeah, 1977, there was this huge ocean floor expedition was going on, because this initiated because of Second World War, but it has a great number of scientific benefits too. In 1977, this Galapagos hydrothermal expedition was conducted. And for the first time, scientists found the presence of black smokers. The black smokers is nothing but in the ocean floor, there are some hydrothermal vent from which these black colored smokes are coming out. And there are huge geological significance for that, because these are rich in many minerals, sulfide bearing minerals and all these things. But one interesting thing they found that in this environment, there is the presence of chemosynthetic bacteria, like in the bottom left, bottom right, you can see this red tube worm. They survive in this extreme geochemical environment where there is no presence of sunlight and the normal nutrient that we can think of in our Earth's surface, but still some living form are surviving at this stage. Following this, in 2000, the next big discovery came in, which is the discovery of white smokers. So this is it is in the Atlantic Ocean. It is called the Lost City. And they found similar to the black smokers, there is also the development of white smokers in the ocean floor. Now, what is the difference between black smokers and white smokers? They found that black smokers are mainly developed or hosted by basaltic body, and white smokers are mainly hosted by peridotite body. And interestingly, they found more primitive chemosynthetic bacteria in white smokers as compared to black smokers. So based on that, for the last 20 years, there was extensive research on understanding the origin of life. And to understand that, as I said earlier, the first we have to understand that we have to answer these 4 questions. What is the source of energy? And as this is very prominent from these results, that in these locations, the source of energy was geothermal energy. And what was the source of carbon? As I said, that in Archean environment, the environment was mostly anoxic, so carbon dioxide level is very high. And then what is the means of concentration? That H2 reacted with carbon by bicarbonate ion, and they produced first methane. So from inorganic world to organic world, first reaction is possible given that we get this H2. And what are the catalytic agent? The catalytic agent were the iron, your nickel, cobalt, zinc, Mn, Cu, and as you know, all these are sufficiently present in peridotite rock, mostly hosted in olivine and clinopyroxenes. And I'm not going into each of these figures because it will take much time to discuss all these things. The bottom, the whole story is that the people found an alternative hypothesis where there is no requirement of coming of the living from extraterrestrial body. They get a notion that from the organic world, it can always be produced from the inorganic world in this planet Earth. And this gives you a bigger question that, as you know, that we divide our whole Earth in 3 spheres. It is called your lithosphere, it is called your atmosphere, and it is called your hydrosphere. So the bigger question is whether biosphere, which is all our living planet, it is a result of these 3 spheres, or it has come from some outside planet. And this links our bonding with the nature. So if we understand this, then we should appreciate that we are part of all these 3 spheres. So to give you some simple images, so when people tell that the most important thing in this figure is to get the hydrogen, because all other components are already present. So from where hydrogen came? And to understand that, one of the most interesting reaction at that time was very prominent till today in the ocean floors in Miocene regions is the serpentinization reaction. Now, what is serpentinization reaction? Serpentinization reaction is simply olivine, which is MgFeSiO4. It reacts with your water and it produces serpentine plus brucite. Now, as you all know, in your olivine, Fe is in +2 state. Now, as it reacts with water, the water is an oxidizing agent. So this water divides into O2 plus H2, or you can take H plus or OH minus. Now this OH minus part, this go into this olivine structure forming your serpentine. And you see the same elements were present in serpentine, MgFeSiO, only from somewhere this OH molecule came into the serpentine structure from parent olivine. So this OH molecule came from water. So what about this leftover H plus? Now this leftover H plus, this bonds with another H plus cation and produces H2. So one of the inevitable result of your serpentinization reaction is the production of H2. So whenever serpentinization reaction happens, H2 will definitely produce. But the problem is, in present, H2 is a gas. So we cannot get the direct sign in rock. If we collect some rock, we cannot get the sign of H2 in the rock. So we have to get some proxy so to understand whether H2 is produced or not. So one of the byproduct of the serpentinization reaction is magnetite. So how magnetite produces? Magnetite produced from same point when we have olivine Fe is Fe2 plus. Now H2O divides into H plus and OH minus. So OH minus goes into serpentine structure. Now there is H plus. Now when 2 H plus joins, it produces H2 plus 2 free electrons. These 2 free electrons oxidizes your Fe2 plus and produce Fe3 plus, and that's how we get the formation of magnetite. So whenever, and this magnetite, I think in your curriculum, if you have seen this mesh texture of olivine, you will find these opaque minerals in olivine and serpentine and these magnetites. So this magnetite signifies that during the reaction, H2 were produced. And this is the same you see in the plane polarized light. So if we believe that serpentinization reaction was very much active in this Archean terrain and also active till today, then we have no problem in getting the source of this H2 in this means of concentration reaction. So this is the contribution of the serpentinization reaction in this production of this organic life. So this is to produce the main nutrient for conversion of inorganic world to the organic world. And for the last 20 years, you will find almost 50 nature papers on the same reactions and same topics. And because of this, it is another famous scientist who is actually a biochemist. He, Professor Christian Duhé, he is a French scientist. He also got the Nobel Prize in 1974. He gave this idea that life is almost bound to arise whenever physical conditions are similar to Earth. And this is one of the main theory for today for moving forward. And when I just started working on this topic, one interesting book I came across, that is The Mechanism of Life. It is in 1911 that it was published. And there it says the chain of life is a continuous one. So at the one end, you have from the mineral at one end to the most complicated organisms at the other. So again, corroborating the fact that we are the part of the nature. So we are part of the geosphere, lithosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere. Biosphere is not some separate entity. And taking this forward, now this is many of you know this, and every day NASA is doing some new breakthrough on this regard. This is the SETI research. The SETI is Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligent Research, and this is one of the main focus for NASA. So to understand how life has originated in extraterrestrial bodies. Now, if you just remember, in extraterrestrial body, when we say every day people are coming out with ideas that in Mars we get the sign of water. So in Mars you cannot get the sign of water, only we get the water bearing minerals. And the most dominant mineral in Mars you find is clay mineral and serpentine mineral. So now you can link that why in Mars also people are searching for serpentine and clay. Because if you can search for serpentine, that gives you an idea that the reaction which is happening in the ocean floor, that is also happening, may have happened in some earlier time in Mars. So that's why they are building the theory. Now, because of this SETI research, one of the main focus of NASA is that, as I said, you cannot go every day to Mars or any other extraterrestrial planet. So, but what you can do, you can go to extreme geological environment in this planet Earth to understand these complexities. And the most extreme geological environment in this regard are hydrothermal vent environment. So that's why one of the main focus of NASA and many international organizations is to understand. In National Geographic, in Discovery, every day we'll find these episodes. So one of the main focus is to understand these deep sea life forms and their origin. So now we'll move to that geological part. So far, this is the database I have collected for last year, I think. This is the locations of the hydrothermal vent all over in the global scenario, where people have found the presence of hydrothermal vent, where the red symbols are confirmed that people have gone there and collected the hydrothermal vent fluid samples, studied them, and the yellow ones are inferred. And the most interesting thing is that almost more than 95% of them has been found in mid-oceanic ridge environment. So, and in mid-oceanic ridge environment, if we see just basic geology, if we see the structure from a ophiolite sequence, the structure of your oceanic lithosphere, the top layer is your gabbroic basaltic, and the bottom below Moho, you have the ultramafic sequence. And if you remember, these two are the rocks on which black smokers and white smokers were found. Black smokers were found on this basaltic that is in the top of the oceanic lithosphere, and white smokers are found over on the ultramafic or peridotite rock, that is at the bottom part of the oceanic lithosphere. Now, when people started, and that's how this increasing number of study on serpentinization process proceeds. Now, when people studied, this is collected from 2010 element issue. So when people studied in which actual mid-oceanic ridge environment serpentinization reaction happens, they found that there are, depending on spreading rate, we get two types of, mostly two, now it is called three. So there are two types of spreading ridges. One is fast spreading ridge, that is where the oceanic crust spreads very fast, and that's why the alteration is limited to the upper crust, because this is very obvious. When the oceanic crust is moving very fast, the water is not getting enough time to penetrate. That's why it is altering only the upper part, that is the basaltic layer, and that's how you get the origin of the black smokers. Now, in case of slow spreading ridges, where the spreading rate is less than 4 centimeter per year, the water get enough time to penetrate through the oceanic lithosphere, and it goes up to the upper mantle section, and it alters your peridotite rock, which is composed of olivine and pyroxene. And so the most favorable environment for serpentinization reaction in this whole planet is your slow spreading mid-oceanic ridges. And if we will get more serpentinization reaction, if the slow spreading ridge is much slower, that is at ultra slow spreading ridge. Okay, so if we have to study this extreme geological or geological environment, the only locality or geological settings we have to target is the slow spreading ridge environment, where this serpentinization driven hydrothermal vent originates. So following this is actually part of my, for the last 5 years, so 2017, it is an ongoing project. So people have studied this started studying these ultra-slow spreading ridges. But the point is, when we actually looked at the so far IODP project, most of the IODP drilling has been carried out on slow spreading ridges, not ultra-slow spreading ridges. So far, only two ultra-slow spreading ridge has been drilled. One is your Hess tip, that is in Atlantic Massif, and one is your leg 176, that is in Southwest Indian Ridge. Now, the most interesting part here is when they have done the lithostratigraphy of the this ultra-slow spreading ridge oceanic lithosphere section, they found that the lower crustal section in ultra-slow spreading ridge is composed of olivine bearing gabbro and troctolite. So olivine bearing gabbro is gabbro, normal plagioclase clinopyroxene, along with it olivine. And troctolite, we have only plagioclase and olivine. So whereas in comparison to that, in slow spreading ridges and in fast spreading ridges, you will get the lower oceanic crust composed of simple gabbro. But in lower ocean, in ultra-slow spreading ridges, it is olivine bearing. So now if we look at the left part, so left top part, this is the basalt tetrahedron. So far our understanding of the oceanic lithosphere was based on clinopyroxene, plagioclase, and olivine. So the lower part of the oceanic lithosphere, that is upper mantle section, falls in clinopyroxene, olivine, orthopyroxene tetrahedra, triangular plot, and the crustal part plots in plagioclase clinopyroxene. So this is the normal slow spreading ridge and fast spreading ridge setting. But in ultra slow spreading ridge, this olivine is included into that. So we have a new system which is composed of plagioclase, clinopyroxene, and olivine. So for the next few slides, I will show you that apart from your peridotite, so we should also study this lower crustal part, that is olivine bearing gabbro and troctolite, which can also be a potential source or for the at least sustenance of life. And for that, the question that I am going to answer is, can the alteration in olivine gabbro provide life essential ingredient in the ultra-slow spreading ridges? And that leads us to the next level question, is did life originate at a single environmental settings or multiple microenvironment contributed to the building blocks of life in early Earth? And for this, that India has everything, and don't have to go much far. That close to India, Lakshadweep, we have the Central Indian Ridge. So this is one of the ultra slow spreading ridge where the spreading rate is less than half spreading rate is less than 10 millimeter per year. So this is the closer picture of the your Central Indian Ridge settings, and this has the age of this is not very much. It is mostly in this area. You will get the age of 10 million year only. And people have now shifted from Atlantic Ocean to this Central Indian Ridge portion, and many oceanic expedition is regularly going on in this region. So in this region, there are 4 hydrothermal vents that has so far been identified or confirmed. That is Kyrie vent, Edmond vent, Solitaire vent, and Dodo vent. And the top north part is your Central Indian Ridge. The bottom left is your Southwest Indian Ridge, where earlier this lower oceanic crust leg 176 were identified. And the east one is Southeast Indian Ridge that form a triple junction that is called your Rodriguez triple junction. Now, if we look at this hydrothermal vent fluid composition in these 4 Dodo, Solitaire, Edmond, and Kyrie, we found that in Kyrie vent, which is the most popular, the host rock, in all other 3 types, the host rock are MORB, basalt. But in Kyrie vent, the host rock is troctolite and DMORB. So there is a component of troctolite actually. And if you see the one important thing I want to show you, okay, maybe I will show you later. So this is actually the location of this Kyrie vent just near the Rodriguez triple junction, and you have Edmond, Solitaire, and Dodo. But so far there are total 21 hydrothermal vents that has so far been either confirmed or inferred in this Central Indian Ridge. And so 4 is confirmed and rest 17 is only inferred based on either some mid-oceanic volcanic activity or any other thing, or some seismic maps or anything. So my study actually concentrate on this, the northern hydrothermal vent, which is near the Vitage Megamulian. Okay, so this is the location, and in the right part you can see this is the inferred hydrothermal vent fluid, and this is the location of the sample from where we have collected oceanic dredged sample of all type of rocks in the oceanic lithosphere. And if you see that we have collected, mainly I'm showing you this, we have collected your gabbro, that is composed of plagioclase, clinopyroxene, and olivine. And that is, we name it as olivine gabbro. Also, we have oxide gabbro. So these are the main composition in this gabbro area. And along with it, we have collected serpentine, we have collected basalt. So now I will take you through some detailed mineralogy to understand you how we can link mineralogy with these big things. So this is simple photomicrograph of plane cross-polarized light of the sample we have collected, and we have clinopyroxene, we have plagioclase, and we have olivine. Now, so this is just to show you, this is the Raman spectra to confirm this is the olivine. Now, when we did this normal compositional study by EPMA, you can see this olivine component contains significant amount of nickel. Okay. Now let us zoom in this olivine part and take you through the microtexture at the mineral water interface. So this is your BSE image, backscattered electron image of the same area. And if we further zoom in this part, we see this is the texture that is developing. So you have clinopyroxene and you have olivine as the primary mineral, and you can see the relics traces of magnetites. And please remember that all this has been confirmed by Raman spectroscopy. So there is no doubt that these phases are wrong. And we have serpentine at the central part of the rim. And on either side of this rim towards olivine, we have clay mineral. And if you remember earlier, I have said that in Martian lithosphere, this is the two important mineral we are searching. One is serpentine, one is clay. Now, when we did the Raman of this serpentine, because this is important, because serpentine has 3 polymorph, and each polymorph, that is lizardite, chrysotile, and your antichorite, and each polymorph tells a different story. So first we have to confirm that what polymorph it is. So only serpentine, it is a serpentine mineral will not work in present day mineralogy. So this is actually confirmed as lizardite. Now when we tell, and also I am showing you the Raman spectra for magnetite to confirm this is the magnetite phase. Now when we tell this is lizardite, that tells that, and also we say, so this is not required. And the same picture is for another vein. And you see the difference in previous vein, only for your curiosity. You see these veins are developed intra-olivine. That means you have one single olivine crystal. Within that, these serpentine veins has been developed. And here you see these magnetite veins have developed in the inter-olivine grains. That means it has cut through multiple olivine grains. So it is a later stage magnetite vein. And if we get the BSc image of this, we will get these big clusters of magnetites. Now, as I said you earlier, once we have magnetite, we can readily understand that this olivine to serpentine reaction involves the production of hydrogen. Now, why I said this confirmation of the serpentine phase is important, because that depending on the serpentine polymorph, we can tell the temperature of the reaction. Because the lizardite polymorph is stable up to 330 degrees centigrade in the bottom left in this PT diagram you can see, but antichorite is stable up to 400. Now the very presence of lizardite serpentine in our olivine rim proves that the olivine serpentination reaction happened at this temperature, at least below 330 degrees centigrade. And yeah, the thing that I wanted to show you earlier. Now, if you come here, you see that the temperature of this hydrothermal vent is close to this. Okay, so close to 330 region. So close to serpentination reactions. In all cases, it is 356, 296, 328, and 369. So now let's proceed. So next we have these clay minerals, and clay minerals are confirmed using their EPMA study and TM study. I have not shown you the TM data. This is only using your EPMA data, and from the octahedral by tetrahedral cation ratio, we can differentiate serpentine, talc, all phyllosilicates and all these things we can differentiate. And you see there are these 3 types of clay so far identified, but I'm not going into that much detail. And they contain significant amount of aluminium and alkali minerals and Fe3+. Then as you can understand that the only source of aluminium in this bulk system is plagioclase. So this tells us that the reaction involved the dissolution of plagioclase. And also interestingly, we get the formation of calcite at the inner interface of this clay layer. So you can see how complex the actual in the minerality interface scale the reactions are. First, you are getting a serpentine mineral. Second, you are getting a clay mineral. And finally, you are getting a carbonate mineral. And this is calcite actually as confirmed by Raman. And also we got chloride. This way we can leave. So now coming back to the very beginning. So if we tell the source of energy, again in this environment, the source of energy is your hydrothermal, your geothermal energy. Second is the source of carbon. Source of carbon is the carbon in the Archean environment. And third is your means of concentration. The same reaction that people believe in periodized serpentinization occurs, that same reaction is also occurring in this environment. That actually can occur in this environment, reacting bicarbonate anion with hydrogen to produce methane. Now, fourth is the catalytic agent. As I said, that I showed you the example. The catalytic agent present here is Fe, Mn, Ni, and also the clay minerals. Now, one of the questions people actually raise about olivine gabbro system, that in periodized system you have almost, like if you take Danite or Harzbergite, you have the olivine concentration modal proportion is more than 50%. But in olivine gabbro, you have only 20% or 80%. But people experimentally, when they try to produce the hydrogen in lab, they found that serpentinization reaction produces almost your 2 to 3 mole per reaction. One olivine, when dissolves, it produced 2 to 3 mole of your hydrogen. But in case of olivine gabbro system, it produces 30 nanomole. But people have found in this extreme geochemical environment that this chemosynthetic bacteria can survive at as low as hydrogen concentration up to 2 nanomole. So 13 nanomole, if it can produce, it is much more sufficient. And talking about clay, as I said, that if you see that clay structure, it actually has a great benefit of giving a catalytic agent in formation of peptide bonds. And this is one of the paper. And in case of your solar system also, people have studied the interaction of clay minerals with organic matter in order to understand this early origin of life in early solar system. So the catalytic role of clay minerals in forming or the accelerating the organic reaction is already well known. So now, this is one of the important discovery that came in few years back. I think it is in 2010, some 10 years back. The theory that we are producing, that people have done investigation on the same site of Southwest Indian Ridge. I think they have done it this one. And they have studied the bacteria and their gene pools. And they actually try to understand that what is their host rocks. And I think this table is not visible to you, but this is in +1, and if you can look at it, you can read this Mason 2010 paper. And they found that almost 50% of this chemosynthetic bacteria, which is living in this environment, is hosted by olivine gabbro. So that means apart from your ultramafic periodites, olivine gabbro can also act as an important agent for, if not origin, at least for the sustenance of life in the extreme geochemical environment. And that leads us finally to this big question, as I started, that this came in geobiology in 2013, that did life originate at a single environment or multiple microenvironment for the origin of life contributed. So this paper actually tells, and they have studied different environment, atmospheric gas, exposed lakes, beach settings, sea ice, hydrothermal vents, oceanic crust, and marine sediments. And they found that the parameters required for an ideal settings for your survival of life or origin of life can be supplied from different environments. So some environment rich in some part, other environment is rich in other part. And from that, they actually postulated that, if you can see in the last slide, we concluded that no single environmental settings can offer enough geochemical physical diversity. And there are multiple environments that actually gave rise to this ideal situation for the origin of life in Hadean Earth. And the most important thing they actually linked is there is a great linkage between organic precursors, minerals, and fluid in these various environmental contexts. So that means mineralogy is important. And I just, in this pandemic situation, I want to conclude that in a other note, that we should, as I showed in this talk, that we should try to understand that biosphere is part of these three spheres, and we should not ever exploit this. Otherwise, we will lead to this kind of pandemics again and again. Thank you. So now I welcome questions from the audience.
Thank you, Dr. Alik.
Yeah, thank you.
The chat box is open. The participants can type in their questions.
Okay, okay. So let me first get in there. So where is the chat box?
It'll be there at the bottom. You should be able to see a bar at the bottom.
Yes. No, can you, can you ask? Then I can answer. I'm not able to find it.
Yeah, sure. So can I again ask the participants to type type their questions into the chat box?
Yeah, ask them to ask me directly. They can.
Okay, if you can even raise your hands, we'll unmute you and then you can ask the question.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have our first question. It is asked by Omkar. The question is, how spectroscopy is used to determine the sample?
Yeah. Now I can read the chat box. Yeah, I'm getting. So here, see, spectroscopy, here I have used Raman spectroscopy. So the spectroscopy can be used to identify minerals samples in many ways. So you can have either bulk sample analysis or you can have mineral analysis. So if you, let's say if you have a rock and you want to identify what are the minerals present, so you can simply powder the rock and put it into XRD and get its spectra. And that is also spectra. And yeah, Sangeeta, just wait, I'm answering one by one. So, and if you want to go for in situ means just probing the spot of a mineral in a thin section, you will go by Raman. Now, what Raman does, that it actually, when you probe, Raman is a vibrational spectroscopy. So there is two vibrational spectroscopy. One is Raman, one is infrared. So Raman spectroscopy and infrared, which we popularly call as FTIR. So these two are complementary. So if some mineral vibration bands are Raman active, they will not be FTIR active. If some bands are FTIR active, they will not be Raman active. Now this vibration, so what happens, let's say if you have a SiO4 molecule, SiO4 tetrahedra, depending on the cationic environment, it vibrates. And this vibration is very specific to each mineral composition, not only mineral phase. This is specific to mineral composition. Like your diopside will vibrate in separate way, or your Hedenbergite will vibrate in separate way. Why? Because in one case, if you have Mg, and in other case, if you have Fe, which is a heavier. So by this, we can get the spectra, and this spectra is very specific. And so far, this is the most definite way to try to understand that what mineral phase it is. Otherwise, there are many minerals you cannot identify. Like if you can identify it is olivine, but what olivine solid solution it is, unless you do composition, you cannot identify. So that's how we do Raman spectroscopy, and this is a popular tool now. Unfortunately, this has been first given by C.V. Raman in India, but in Indian geological community, it is not very much popular than in abroad. Okay, next question is from?
It's from Sangeeta.
Sangeeta, how in Mars only hydrous minerals are present? No land, no water, right? Okay. So see, Sangeeta, in Mars, so today, whatever Mars we are studying, the present Earth condition was in Mars in 2 billion years ago. So we are now backdated. So whatever we are studying now, actually trying to explore, this is whatever the people are trying to fool us. Actually, the story is Earth. If Mars was at that stage, it was at least 2 billion years ago. So maybe at that time, and that's why we some spectroscopy and remote sensing, you find this ancient river flow and all these things people are studying. So those all are ancient. At present, there is nothing. But that time people believe that as we have originated from the same solar system, some theory is that there was some hydras. And remember, when I talk about water or fluid, I should have been very specific. I can in geology we do not tell fluid or water that is only your H2O. We can tell H plus also that. We can tell OH minus also that. So when we study olivine diffusion of water, we study H plus diffusion actually. So there may be present, but that's what people are trying to understand actually. So because at present there is no water. So if it was present, then this hydrous molecule will give us that signature. The next question is, can the pH difference between the vent fluid and ocean also could provide an important energy supply? Obviously, see, the thing is, pH is, if we go back, there are multiple parameters. There is temperature, there is pH, there is many chemical constituents, and n number of chemical constituents. And the actual situation is far more complex than we think. So pH, obviously, when, there are people who are actually studying geobiology, mineral microprobe interaction. So they are actually one of the major focus of their study is how this pH controls this microprobe growth, microbial growth. So pH definitely plays a role. But just remember, in serpentinizing vent, the pH is alkaline. Because otherwise, in any earth condition, you cannot get alkaline in vent fluid. You cannot get alkaline hydrothermal fluid. Always it is acidic. Only in your this serpentinization hosted vent fluid, the pH goes up to 12. So the lost city, there it is reported around 11.7. So pH definitely plays the role. The next one is from Jyoti. Hi Jyoti, can't we get hydrogen from other reaction also instead of same? Yeah, obviously we can get from other reaction, but the point is the reaction has to be first thermodynamically stable and kinetically favorable. Now the olivine, once it come in contact with water, it will readily react. And this reaction is instant, means you don't need some extra thing. If you simply put a sample of olivine and in a glass of water, you keep it into your study table, after 1 month, you will see the development of serpentine. You don't need anything because olivine is not stable in contact with water. And also, olivine serpentinization reaction is the most, what should I say? The amount of serpentine mineral production out of olivine is at a high modal proportion than any other metamorphic reactions. So that's why the amount of hydrogen that is produced, that is much higher. So that's why when we start our theory, we start from the best possible. Obviously, in day ahead, we'll start to understand some other reactions also, and there is definitely, in science, there is nothing fixed. So there is definitely some other reactions that played the role. But at least we start to believe the thing that it has started from this earth within, not from some extraterrestrial body, some extraterrestrial thing came. It is from here itself. Sir, you said that serpentine was the source of hydrogen in the atmosphere. Can there? No, because even if you have hydrogen in the atmosphere, it has to be soluble in the water. Because see, here the reactions are happening in the ocean floor. So even if in the atmosphere you have hydrogen, that cannot be, that has to be soluble in the water. So that hydrogen is not of any use for the ocean floor. Okay. Yeah, manganese nodules. So that's what I marked. Manganese nodules is popularly found in black smokers, because that's where we found it. Feedback link. When olivine is exposed to the surface temperature, it gets transmitted by the process sample. But the temperature condition back to the time during archaeology was different. What are those conditions? Or is the transmission only triggered because of water? Yeah, this triggered because of water. And serpentinization, so far in the as per present understanding, serpentinization has the widest range of metamorphic PT condition. It starts from your room temperature, and it can proceed at a pressure of 2.1 GPa up to your mantle condition, and at a temperature of 750 degrees centigrade. So serpentinization, for this part, the only trigger is your water. So that's why I said, if you simply keep a glass of water and put an olivine grain, you don't need anything. You will transform it into serpentine, because simple thermodynamic calculation, olivine in contact with water is not stable. It gives energy is high, it will react. So this is very simple. Researchers are using a planet similarity in the original library. What is it? Planet similarity is that, as I said, this extreme geochemical environment, these are found in deep ocean. And unfortunately, so far, there is only of the Earth, I think last week or day before last week, one article came. So far only we have done 5% or 10% of the ocean exploration. And also one popular article came that the first geologist, some lady, Catherine, she actually digged into the deepest part of the Earth, in the ocean.
Yes, it came on last Tuesday.
Yes, okay. So the point is that the simulators are nothing but some experimental conditions where people are trying to simulate the conditions that they think. I will not say that they have actually confirmed. They think that can be possible in this extreme geochemical environment. That can be your deepest part of the ocean. That can be some extraterrestrial body. Next is, can you repeat the part of the serpentine as the source of the hydrogen? Okay, so I'll take your question at the last because it takes time. So next one is there any other role of serpentine in life origin? Does it only provide a favorable condition for life only? No, it's provide the main nutrient, that is the hydrogen. And that's the belief today is. So people now believe, so I think I can, my screen is shared, huh? Another?
Yes, it's shared.
Just hold on. Just hold on. So you can see it now. So you see, this is a paper in 2004 actually. It came in PNAS, and there they have actually explained that H2 is fluid from serpentinization, its geochemical and biotic implications. So to answer both of your questions, that this is the reaction that is required, H2 plus CO2 for CH4 plus hydrogen plus water. This is the reaction overall they are thinking. And they showed actually, if you go through this paper, they give that how this reaction played this role, iron and nickel, and they did this phase equilibria, and the earlier one, as I said, this concentration of your hydrogen, this -2 log of m. So the point is, your question was, just a second. So to answer Jyoti, is there any other role of serpentine in life of origin? No, it only provided the essential nutrient, the reactant, which was carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide, whatever we think, that was coming from dissolved bicarbonate molecule in the ocean water. And we required H2. And that H2 was produced from this serpentinization reaction that was very much active in that time. And for that, you will find this excellent Indian exposures like Nuasai Sukhinda chromite belt. You have Nugali belt, all these Archean cratons, you will find this exposure of all the serpentine bearing belt, and where chromite mining is now going on. These are excellent examples. Said meteorites have serpentine. Now, serpentine bearing meteorites so far we have not identified. Now, the meteorite contain Fe, but there we will mostly get Fe nickel bearing alloys. Serpentine bearing meteorite that has been serpentinized at a later stage has been found few, but I will not comment on that because people are still doubting whether at what situation that reaction happened. I know one group in this Arizona state, they are working on this, but people have doubts. The model of the life origin is only possible under very specific condition, a cool earth and an acidic ocean all must be during Archean. The earth was cooling, but how was the acid? How was an acidic condition achieved at that time? No, the reaction earth was cool, obviously. You are talking about the life form that you are talking of this present life form. I am talking about the primitive life form. Those are chemosynthetic bacteria. And that is not specific to your acidic condition, as we now get examples of these hydrothermal vent organisms. So these have survived in alkaline environment. And people are regularly collecting those samples now to study their biogeochemical cycles also. So at that stage, it was alkaline environment where these primitive chemosynthetic bacteria originated. Next, Koustav said, scientists found the existence of xerosite in Mars. How is this mineral important? And I mean, is it responsible for, I have to read, Koustav. I have to read. Just a second. I will answer you. You send me this question in my mail ID. I will reply you. Voisali, if serpentine was not there, then how can we find the source of serpentinization? Is not the source of energy. Serpentinization is the source of nutrient. Source of energy is the mantle convection and the geothermal energy. What is the source of carbon back in time? Was it already present or existed in the earth, or did they come in the meteors? So it was the origin of your solar system. Simply you read the Gantar for first two chapters, how there is this nebular hypothesis theory, all this theory was there, how carbon originated, carbon actually came in this planet Earth body. So it came from the early solar system. Sure, sir, thank you. Yeah, thank you too. What type of geological settings is required for serpentine on Mars? See, there is, till today, we have identified serpentine in any kind of geological settings where there is contact between olivine and water. So in any environment, serpentine can be produced. But the most extensive production is in mid-oceanic reefs. Why? Because there you have the maximum modal proportion of olivine bearing rock, which is ultramafic rock. So as of now, people have not, we cannot comment what type of settings is required for serpentinite. People are now, at least, people have not gone to that stage at all. People are now trying to understand whether serpentinization or life was actually present on Mars or not. First, people have to understand that. Then only people will go to geological settings. Yeah, please share my email. You ask your Dr. Salvi, she will share mine. Share difference.
Yes, we'll do that.
The difference between jade and difference between serpentine. Jade is your gem mineral, and serpentine is a phyllosilicate. Serpentine is a phyllosilicate mineral, and jade is, I think, jadeite, which is your nickel-bearing pyroxide, sodium-bearing pyroxide. So jade we call, actually jade come from jadeite, but then there are some, what should I say? Not minerals, but kind of opal kind of stuff. That we call also some greenish. So this is actually, people use it for stone purpose, putting into their hand and in ring. So jade is ornamentation thing, and serpentine is a different mineral altogether. Alik, the email page share हो रहा है, switch off your PPT. Stop share. ठीक है, I have switched off my PPT. Yanada.
Thank you, Alikda. Alikda, we have another question from a student, and we have a couple of people who have raised their hands. Can I unmute them?
Yeah, sure. We can talk to them face to face also. I am also. You can.
So Ankit Soni, if you can unmute yourself. Ankit Soni, are you here?
Ankit.
Okay, so I can't see him on the list any longer. We have another question. It's found that we have even got gypsum on Mars. Since it is evaporites found on land as well as sea, can there be any connectivity with serpentinization or hydrothermal vents?
Yeah, see, when you have this gypsum is CaSO4 2 or 3, 4H2, I think. So you have this, whenever you have this calcium present and sulfate is present in the oceanic, if you take the oceanic example, the ocean water, sulfate molecules are present. So obviously you will get this kind of deposits. Now, if you have similar kind of rock types, you will obviously, and some excess water is present, obviously you will get the hydrous mineral phases. And this is not only that serpentine will produce, there will be n number of hydrous minerals will produce. Now, people are starting to understand the significance of their products step by step. And for the last 20 years, people are concentrating on serpentine only.
We have one last question from Elon Musk. The question is, it's from Elon Musk. So the question is, what type of geologic setting is required for
I answered that.
Oh, sorry, I must have been distracted. Sorry about that. That's it, Alikda, for now. So these are all the questions. So we'll be sharing your email ID in the feedback. If anybody wants to get back in touch with you for any other questions, they can always email you. So thank you so much.
I also want to thank you, but I have one request that if anybody come across in any field exposure that the exposure of olivine gabbro and troctolite, please mail me. I'll be happy to go there and do the field work, because in India continental scenario, I am now seriously looking from some olivine gabbro and troctolite outcrops, but now I'm not getting it. So I'll be happy to collaborate with him and do some research together. So Nanda, carry on now.
Yeah. So thank you, Dr. Alik, for such an interesting topic. You introduced us to some very new research, some very new developments, and excellent potential research avenues And I hope that some of our students here really pick these topics up and they just run with it, because there is so much potential for this. It involves not only mineralogy, geochemistry, plate tectonics, planetary geology. There's so much. So there's a lot of potential in this area. So I would really like it if we keep continuing this, and students, please ask more questions, be more involved. You can always get in touch with sir anytime. We'll share his email with all of you.
So I have your email. So you need any kind of help, you just mail me. I'll be there. Okay.
So thank you, Dr. Alik, for taking the time to share your work with us.
Thank you.
I would like to thank the organizing members also who helped us set up this whole event. And the participants, thank you so much for showing your interest in this series of lectures. The email, you'll get a feedback in the email itself in some time after the lecture. Your next lecture in this entire series will take place on the 16th of July. We have Dr. Mohanty from Pune University, who will be speaking about shear zones in the southern granulite terrain. The registration link for this will be sent to you in the next few days' time. And also, so make sure you're on the Telegram channel for all the latest updates regarding the lecture series. We are looking forward to host all of you again for that lecture. So thank you for being with us today. Thank you, Dr. Alik.
Thank you.
And
I am switching off.
we can, yes, thank you. Have a nice day, everyone.
Thank you.